Discover the amazing moment when a black waitress revealed the hidden truth behind a $100 million. Maya Jenkins stood at the edge of the diner's bustling floor, steam curling from a pot of freshly brewed coffee, her heart a mix of anxiety and determination as she wiped down her station one last time. With late-morning regulars filling the cramped booths, the familiar rhythm of plates clattering and laughter echoed around her. Yet just beneath the surface, a storm brewed inside. The diner, her grandmother's legacy, faced a looming threat, potentially trading its charm for cold corporate steel. What could she, a simple waitress, do against the titans of industry? She hesitated, juggling trays and the needs of her customers, her mind racing back to overhearing the slick executives discussing their buyout. Their dismissive tone cut deep. They saw this place as just a quaint relic, a wallet-lining opportunity. But it wasn't just that for Maya. It was family. The very meals her grandmother served here were infused with lessons of perseverance, wisdom, and love. Could she let these men rob her children and their future of something so vital? As the morning rush began to dwindle, a looming sense of dread wrapped around her. Her co-workers, once supportive, started to murmur doubts that pierced her resolve like icy daggers. "Just a waitress," she heard them whisper, those simple words laced with all the skepticism of her worth and ability. How could someone like her confront power brokers armed with nothing but a smile? She wanted to scream back at them, to show them the fierce fire burning inside. But fear wrapped around her throat, choking the words before they could escape. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Her internal dialogue spiraled. She recalled her late grandmother's voice fondly, while also feeling the weight of disappointment from her peers. But she pushed aside the emotions, steeling herself. The thought of a glossy corporate building with her diner's footprint erased fueled a rage that stirred within. The integrity of her home, of her children's heritage, depended on the actions she chose. But doubt flickered in her mind like a faulty light, a reminder of how many times she had doubted herself before. Each shift felt like an endurance test, with the clock never seeming to stop ticking. She carried not only orders to tables, but the looming burden of the impending deal and her aspirations. As announcement day neared, her co-workers' jabs felt sharper, more melodramatic.
So, salmon does have iron in it, but it's not a lot. There's better sources of iron, and yet Maya readied herself. With each class she took, not only did her confidence build, but the tight knot of fear transformed into razor-sharp focus. She mapped out her approach, every detail meticulous. The proof she'd gathered, the truths she'd studied. All the intricacies of the deal would flow like the coffee she sloshed into cups. As she approached the boardroom, each step felt heavy with the burden of her family's legacy. Countless eyes weighing on her from the diner's patrons gathered nearby, all hoping for a miracle. Doubts had no place in her mind now. But the moment she crossed the threshold, an impending silence filled her ears, the anticipation of the fight ahead leaving her trembling. Would her fierce resolve be enough to battle these faceless titans of greed? The stakes had never been higher, and with her legacy poised at the cliff's edge, she rallied every ounce of her spirit, ready to unleash the truth that would shake them all to their core. Maya took a deep breath as she stepped into the boardroom, the scent of polished wood and expensive cologne assaulting her senses. The table was a sleek expanse of glass, reflecting the gaudy chandeliers hanging above, contrasting sharply against the warmth of her diner. This wasn't just a meeting, it was a battlefield, and she was armed with the weight of her family's legacy. The executives were already seated, their faces a mixture of curiosity and humor, as if they were humorously entertained by the arrival of the simple waitress. Their condescending glances no longer scared her. They ignited a fire. She could feel her late grandmother's presence wash over her, a steady hand guiding her resolve as the fluorescent lights intensified the shadows of doubt on the opposing faces. Miss Jenkins. A tall man with slicked back hair leaned forward, a smirk tugging at his lips. "You're here to discuss what, exactly? How a diner can stand against a multi-million-dollar deal?" There it was, the challenge laid bare. Who was she, indeed? But she was more than they assumed. "I'm here to discuss value, real value," Maya replied, her voice steady, although the tremor inside her recalled every whispered, "just a waitress" she'd heard. As she presented the evidence she had painstakingly collected, she realized this was her arena. Decades of community engagement, the diner's deep roots in the neighborhood, and the countless lives touched by the warmth of her grandmother's meals weren't just sentimental tales. They were pivotal in demonstrating the diner's intrinsic worth against the profit-driven motives of the executives before her. Every time she laid out another fact that tilted the narrative from their cold, hard numbers to the vibrancy of her grandmother's legacy, she felt a rush of empowerment. She could see their initial amusement start to fade, replaced by furrowed brows and taut jaws. "People don't just eat here," she continued, her tempo quickening.
"They celebrate here. They grieve here. My grandmother created a sanctuary in this diner. This was no mere front for business. It encapsulated years of belonging, of comfort. That was the true currency they didn't understand." But even as she laid out her pitch, the looming specter of their intentions hovered over her. She couldn't ignore their power, the way they united as a wall of corporate ambition. A sudden wave of panic swept upon her, but she quashed it. No more second-guessing, no more feeling like an interloper in an alien land. Her voice grew louder, each word a chisel against their fortified exterior. Maya unveiled the market research she had conducted. Surveys from loyal customers, testimonials from generations of diners. Their eyes widened, but skepticism remained. Could a waitress truly understand market dynamics? She was stepping into unfamiliar yet essential territory, exposing not just her knowledge, but her humanity, in a boardroom that often traded emotion for profit margins. Yet, within, different thoughts churned. Where would this take her? Could she convince them to abandon a swift dollar for a deeper connection to the community? She was acutely aware that she stood at a crossroad, not just for the diner, but for her future and that of her children. Just as the board began to stir with discussions, a sharp interruption came from the back. An executive's phone rang. Their eyes shifted towards the distraction, and in that brief moment, she saw an opportunity. What if she could leverage this pause? "How we connect with our community defines our success," she declared, steeling herself. "You can't put a price on loyalty. You can't measure love or comfort in dollar signs." Her conviction postured her as a formidable contender, but would it be enough to silence the naysayers and their intricate plans? The murmurs died slowly, tension thickening the air as she awaited their response. But then the lead executive returned to the table, a glint of mischief in his eye. "You've got guts, Maya, but let's see if you have what it takes to play with the big boys." As they leaned in, an unsettling feeling settled in. The game had just begun. Maya's pulse raced as the glint in the executive's eye morphed from amusement to something sharper. The air in the boardroom thickened, each lingering gaze acting as a weight pressing down on her shoulders. What if she faltered now? The clamor of doubt ghosted through her thoughts, threatening to undo everything she had achieved in this moment. Yet, tucked away neatly within those doubts was an ember of determination. The stakes had just escalated. She straightened herself, a reflexive movement designed to reflect the internal shift taking place. If they were testing her resolve, she would not only meet it, but elevate it. Her grandmother had often said that the strongest steel is tempered in the hottest fire, and this was her crucible. "Your assumptions about my experience underestimate the depth of the real world," she asserted. "Numbers can't measure resilience, and they can't encapsulate the culture of a place forged in shared memories. This diner isn't just my grandmother's legacy, it's the lifeblood of our neighborhood." She could sense a shift, if only marginal, in their postures. Leaning forward slightly, intrigued by the strength of her conviction, a few shared murmurs began to emerge from the previously staid ranks of suits. They looked at one another as if wrestling with an unfamiliar concept, that perhaps profit and heart could coexist, albeit awkwardly. "Let's talk projections," the tall executive said, his smirk replaced by a furrowed brow. "You've painted a community, but what's the tangible business impact? Just because people feel connected doesn't necessarily mean they will spend." The challenge was clear. While the path ahead was fraught with trepidation, she recognized this as her moment to pivot from abstract sentiments to hard data, a territory she had meticulously prepared to navigate. "Loyalty translates to profits," she countered quickly. "Our diners come back not just for the food, but for the experience of belonging, a value that extends well beyond mere financial transactions. Invest in this connection, and you'll see the returns manifest." She dropped figures on them, the increase in repeat patrons, the community events that had both funded localized action and brought people together, the surge in social media engagement, forged through personal stories shared by those touched by her grandmother's meals. Each stat became a building block, reinforcing the foundation she was solidifying against their prior intent. The table vibrated with new tension as a buzz of deliberation washed through the executives. But just as she felt her confidence cresting, the lead executive interrupted. "But you're taking a monumental risk, the risk that people are inherently loyal. What if it fails? What if we pour resources into an endeavor that has no quantifiable return?" The doubt he'd cast hung in the air, hovering like a cloud above her clarity. "And what if we risk dismissing the heart of our community?" she shot back, regretting the fire behind her words only momentarily. "What if we choose profits over people and lose trust where it matters most? In a climate where businesses are seen as mere faceless entities, standing out with authenticity could be our greatest competitive advantage." Maya was acutely aware that her argument had become emotional, and this situation veered dangerously close to a personal attack. The risk of pouring out her heart when business is contingent on cold hard facts loomed heavy, but was countered by the flicker of resilience burning brightly within her. "Let me show you what real success looks like," she added. "We don't just want to survive, we want to thrive. The choice is yours." The confidence in her tone surprised even herself, revealing a layer of conviction she hadn't known was present before now. Maya leaned back slightly, feeling both the weight, her truth, and absence of certainty. She was aware they were captivated by something they hadn't previously anticipated, a simple waitress who could redefine their reality. Yet, as silence settled over the room like a curtain ready to drop, an unsettling thought creaked into her mind. Had she overstepped? Would her words beat back the tide of corporate ambition that loomed over them? As the heads began to nod in contemplative agreement, a new executive piped up from the corner. "You've intrigued us, Maya, but for us to consider changing our strategy, there needs to be tangible proof of your claims." The board was looking for evidence, ready to probe deeper, and within her a hurricane of thought swirled. What kind of proof could possibly show them that human connection, love, and history bound together could indeed be worth the investment? Realization hit hard. A plan began to boil, a plan that could either solidify her place in this fight or bury her ambitions for good.
With the stakes higher than ever, she leaned forward, prepared to declare, "I can give you that proof, but you will need to see the diner through a new lens." And in the midst of scrutinizing eyes, the question remained pressing. What might that new perspective unveil? And could she summon the courage to navigate what lay ahead? Maya's mind raced, each idea colliding with the next, while she considered the weight of the moment pressing upon her. The executives wanted proof, an anchor to validate her passionate claims. But what did that truly mean? How could she transform an instinctive sense of community into quantifiable evidence that would resonate with them? As tension hung in the air, Maya closed her eyes momentarily, trying to center herself amidst the chaotic thoughts swirling like autumn leaves caught in a windstorm. Her grandmother's diner, a beacon of warmth and familiarity, wasn't just a building. It was a living testament to resilience, a narrative rich with memories that she needed to convey in a language these corporate minds understood. "Let's consider something simple yet impactful," she proposed, hands clasped together. "What if we facilitate a series of community dinners? Picture this: themed evenings where locals share their stories, mingling over meals inspired by my grandmother's recipes. We can harness platforms like social media to document these events, showcasing not just their success, but the connections they foster." As she spoke, clenched fists of doubt began to loosen within her. This would not just be an advertisement, it would be a genuine reflection of the diner's spirit. Each dish would be a vessel for the shared histories and struggles of their patrons, and as tangible stories emerged, so would the data. The increase in foot traffic, social media engagement, and word-of-mouth advertising would become undeniable proof of loyalty's value. The executives exchanged apprehensive glances, visibly weighing her idea. Their skeptical smirks faltered slightly, though some hesitated, a hint of intrigue sparking within their calculated perspectives. Sensing an opening, Maya pressed further. "Let's the community aspect with targeted marketing. By engaging our loyal customers not just as diners, but as storytellers, we could turn the diner into an experience. The buzz, both online and offline, could draw in new patrons eager to be part of something authentic and meaningful. I can provide a roadmap that outlines potential revenue increases stemming from these gatherings." A flicker of electrifying anticipation shot through her, feeding off their uncertainty. However, creeping behind her ambition was the knowledge that pulling this off required more than just a plan. It demanded teamwork, leadership, a personal evolution beyond her current role. Could she rally others around this vision? She misunderstood the gravity of what she was proposing, but realized too late that she must also convince her team, those at the diner who believed in the legacy. "What if you created a local ambassador program?" the woman executive suggested, her brow still furrowed but a glimmer of interest breaking through. "Get your most loyal customers involved. Market to them as community leaders who would help spread the word." Maya nodded vigorously, enthusiasm igniting the conversation. Instead of solely relying on the diner's existing social media channels, why not amplify this by mobilizing everyday patrons as brand champions? With renewed vigor, she spun the idea further, describing how these ambassadors could facilitate outreach, host events, and engage their circles. Yet as the ideas flowed and enthusiasm radiated, an uncomfortable thought pricked her resolve. Could she depend on others to share her vision? Her innate tendency to shoulder responsibilities alone quivered beneath the surface. Would they see her idea not just as an extension of her own ambition, but as a shared pathway to their collective success? Maya straightened in her chair again, grounding herself. If we embrace this approach, we're not just investing in one diner, we're creating an ecosystem of stories and connections. Each event can reveal customer value beyond just dollars and cents, while nurturing a loyal patron base that feels involved and invested. I believe deeply in this. The executives began to murmur amongst themselves, their voices a mix of skepticism and contemplation. Their intrigue showed signs of softening, but the clock was ticking. Maya realized these pivotal moments were fleeting. If she didn't act now, she might lose traction. "Let's schedule a follow-up meeting," the tall executive finally declared, pushing his chair back decisively and breaking the bubble of deliberation. "We can look into actionable steps, but our next steps hinge on clarity. We need to define metrics of success together." Maya felt her heart surge, hope battling against the remnants of her uncertainty. What lay ahead could either solidify the future of the diner or risk overwhelming her aspirations. As they stood to leave, promising to revisit her vision soon, just a sliver of doubt began to creep back in. Could she truly foster the collaboration and energy required to pull off such a venture? In that moment of reflection, she realized that this was not solely about proving
her worth, but about creating a community of voices willing to let their stories breathe in a powerful way. As she prepared to leave the boardroom, a daunting question rooted itself firmly in her mind. How would she bridge the gap between her ambitions and the realities of her team? Maya stepped out of the boardroom, her heart still racing from the intensity of the meeting. It had been a roller coaster of ideas, motivation, and uncertainty. She could feel the weight of expectations shifting from the executives to herself. And while a flicker of excitement had ignited within her, so had the pressure to deliver something monumental. She took a deep breath, stepping outside into the crisp air. The world felt larger, almost menacing. Yet it was a crucial reminder of her surroundings. The diner, her sanctuary, needed to thrive, and so did she. The weight of her ambition was juxtaposed against her lingering doubts. Could she become the leader they needed? Would her team at the diner embrace this vision, or would they see it as just another lofty dream smothered in corporate jargon? Returning to the diner, the familiar scents and sounds wrapped around her like a comforting blanket. The rhythm of clattering dishes and joyous laughter filled the room. It was the lifeblood of the establishment. But as she navigated through the busy space, Maya internally dissected her plan, searching for steps forward. She gathered the staff for an impromptu meeting, their faces lighting up in curiosity. "I have a major idea I want to share," she began, her voice trembling slightly with enthusiasm. "We're going to bring our community together in a whole new way. Dinners that showcase not just our food, but our shared stories." Their expressions fluctuated between excitement and fear. "Are we actually going to do this? I mean, opening our doors to everyone?" Jake, her loyal cook, asked, raising an eyebrow, skepticism etched into his features. "Yes, exactly. And it's going to be more than just serving food. It's about creating connections, putting our stories at the forefront. I need your input, your creativity, and your commitment for this to work." Maya's voice rose with fervor. However, the underlying question remained. Would they see the potential or feel the burden of yet another task? Would they view her as a visionary or a delusional dreamer? Her mind raced, grappling with these concepts. "Let's brainstorm some ideas together," she offered, trying to rally them. "What if we each invite someone within our own circles, family, friends, even loyal customers? Each dinner could resonate with their stories as much as ours." Carly, one of the waiters who had grown up in the neighborhood, nodded. "I can bring my aunt. She has the best memories of this place." Maya felt a swell of relief. If one of her team members was excited to share their own connections, perhaps she had a chance to inspire the others. She turned the meeting into a lively discussion, each person contributing thoughts. Slowly, participation grew, injecting the room with creative energy. But that was just scratching the surface. As enthusiasm began to flourish, Maya sensed a battle brewing within her. She could feel the shadows of her self-doubt, whispering questions. What if they dissociated from her passion? What if they didn't truly buy into her vision? The notion of vulnerability frightened her. Exposing her dreams was a great risk. Moments later, after they wrapped up the brainstorming session, Maya stayed behind to clear the tables. She took a moment, reflecting on the day's conversation. The atmosphere had shifted. She noted that those around her were responding to her passion, but she could not let complacency seep into their rhythm. She needed to solidify the momentum while it was alive. That evening, with her head resting on a stack of plates, she mulled over her notions of leadership. Was she ready for this transformative journey, and how would she confront her apprehension? She needed to leverage this opportunity, framing herself not just as a manager, but as a catalyst for a movement rooted deep in heart and history. Determined to commit to her own evolution, she pulled out her notebook, scribbling ideas about the ambassador program, metrics of success, and a potential timeline. Yet what remained unanswered was her underlying question: how to make her team feel that this was not just her endeavor, but theirs. As she tapped her pencil anxiously against the page, an idea struck her. What if she, too, shared her story, one she had kept close to her heart? Could revealing her vulnerabilities help bridge the gap between her ambitions and their shared vision? That possibility flickered in her mind, yet the fear of exposing her own insecurities felt daunting. Engaging with her team in such a raw way could either forge stronger bonds or lead to misunderstandings. The realization loomed, her next step clear but daunting. What personal truths would she be willing to reveal? As she pondered, clarity began to bubble to the surface. The time was nigh for her to confront what had often held her back, her own story. What if revealing her truths became the catalyst that rallied her team? In that moment, a fire ignited within her. She would compose an email for the diner staff, revealing her journey, her fears, and her hopes. It was a risk, but perhaps it was time to stop hiding behind the facade of professionalism. The urge to send that email simmered inside her as she prepared for a pivotal moment. Would her authenticity resonate, and could it truly galvanize them into action? Maya sat at her small desk in the back of the diner, the flickering light casting soft shadows around the cluttered space. With her fingers poised above the keyboard, she grappled with the weight of her thoughts. The email she was drafting felt like a revelation, yet it also stung with a raw vulnerability she had rarely shared with anyone, let alone with her team. As she began typing, memories washed over her. Childhood dreams deferred, the struggles she faced growing up, and the sacrifices made by her family. "I'm not just your manager," she wrote, her heart beating faster with each line. "I am someone who has fought to be here, who knows what it feels like to navigate the world while feeling invisible. I want each of you to feel seen and heard." She paused to read the words again, anxiety bubbling within. Navigating through her own story, she recognized the significance of unveiling her past. Yet the voices of doubt crept back in. What if they rejected her honesty? What if sharing her truth made them view her less as a leader and more as a peer? Pushing through the moment of fear, Maya delved deeper, revealing not just her struggles, but her vision of a diner that could be a safe space, a place where stories could be exchanged over warm meals. She recalled her mother's whispers of hope on cold, hard nights when the weight of bills loomed larger than dreams. These memories were steeped in both heartbreak and resilience, and sharing them felt imperative. With each sentence, the exhilarating thrill of authenticity sparked a fire within her. She wrote about her ambitions not as a solitary pursuit, but as a shared journey that could include each of her team members. "I want us to not just serve food, but to nourish relationships, to build connections," she encouraged. As the minutes turned to hours, time slipped away, and her desk transformed into an arena of self-discovery. What she hadn't anticipated was the sudden clarity that arose from this act of sharing. The more she revealed, the more she recognized the weight of expectation shifting from herself to them. Not in an overwhelming sense, but as a collective invitation to take ownership. Finally, she finished composing the email, a breath of relief escaping her lips as she proofread the words. But before she could hit send, another wave of doubt surged through her. What if they didn't feel the way she hoped? What if they didn't respond with enthusiasm, but reacted with pity or discomfort? Could her openness inadvertently shatter the fragile structure of their teamwork?
Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision bearing down on her. This was not just about sending an email. This was about redefining her leadership, about stepping into a role where she did not just lead from authority, but from empathy. She realized that true leadership required the courage to embrace both strengths and vulnerability. With a resolute breath, Maya pressed send. The simple act felt monumental, filled with exhilarating uncertainty. She sat back, allowing the enormity of the moment to settle. As the sun dipped below the skyline, shadows danced across the diner. The anticipation hummed in the air, but she could feel more than just anxiety. There was an undercurrent of something else: hope. What if this step towards vulnerability cultivated a sense of ownership among her team, transforming their perceptions of her leadership? With the night creeping in, she grabbed a pen, jotting down her thoughts about the next steps, the meetings to follow, and the potential collaborations that lay ahead. The process had started, yet Maya sensed that this was only the beginning. Just then, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and a knot twisted in her stomach. A response from Jake, the skeptical cook, had come in. As her fingers hovered above the screen, she braced herself, knowing that his reply could either buoy her confidence or unravel her efforts. The question loomed: would her leap into authenticity, or would it fracture the fragile foundation she was trying to build? In that moment, Maya stood on the precipice of transformation, her heart racing at the prospect of what lay ahead. Maya's heart thudded as she read the message from Jake. His blunt style had never been eclipsed by politeness, and today was no exception. "Nice email, Maya, but what will that change? You can't just pour your heart out and expect everything to be sunshine and roses. We still have orders to fill." His words hit her like an icy wave. Would that be it? Was her vulnerability to be met with cynicism and indifference? She exhaled slowly, processing what Jake had said. Unexpectedly, a feeling of defiance flickered inside her. He didn't get it. The courage it took to share her story, to rearrange the very fabric of her relationship with the team, he couldn't possibly grasp that yet. In mere seconds, a plan began to form as thoughts collided in her mind. Instead of allowing his skepticism to become a wall, she could make it a door to a conversation. Maya picked up her phone, her fingers flying over the screen. "Thanks for your honest feedback, Jake. Let's talk more about it in the morning, how we can take this forward together." The seconds stretched into an eternity while she waited for his response. This was new territory, a willingness to confront doubts openly instead of letting them fester beneath a veneer of professionalism. What transpired next was a mix of anticipation and fear. Would Jake accept the invitation? Moments later, her phone buzzed again. "Fine, I have thoughts. See you then." There it was, a small victory, fueling her determination to create a healthier dialogue within her team, regardless of how jagged the start may feel. Maya stood up, stretching her tense muscles and glancing around the almost empty diner. The once comforting clamor of dishes and conversation now felt muted, even lonely. A wave of unease rolled over her. She thought of the others: Sam, the shy waitress who often deferred to others, Lisa, who always looked on the edge of burnout, and Mark, who had serious ideas but rarely spoke up. How would they react to her email? Would they show up for the conversation or retreat further into themselves? She moved over to the register, Maya racing as she replayed their dynamics in her head. Maya knew she had to prepare. There was unfinished work to do, and the possibility of transformation lay ahead, poised just beyond the horizon. This wasn't simply about Jake. It was about the entire team reclaiming their voices. As the last few customers trickled out and the night deepened, Maya decided on a strategy. She swiftly began drafting a few potential discussion points, aiming to create a sense of safety in their dialogue. How do we want to feel as a team? What can we do differently moving forward? She jotted down prompts that would foster open conversation, empowering everyone present to share their viewpoints without fear of being dismissed or belittled. But even as she committed her ideas to paper, the doubts clawed at the back of her mind. What if they were reluctant to participate?
What if Jake seemed uninterested and discouraged others? The cramping tension in her stomach began to shift as a wave of resolve washed over her. Maya took a deep breath and picked up her pen again, writing something bold. What if we let this moment become a catalyst for real change? Suddenly, her phone pinged yet again. It was a group text alert from another team member. "Dinner after the shift tomorrow? I could use some good vibes." Maya's heart quickened. They were looking for connection too. Was this the spark she needed? A chance to bring everyone into alignment? As she sent a quick reply, excitement coursed through her veins. Perhaps this was more than just her email. Maybe it was the starting point for a revitalization of their collective morale. She felt her leadership evolving, now intertwined with the team's growth. With a spark of inspiration igniting her resolve, she envisioned the meeting, an authentic space where ideas could blossom. Tomorrow would be her crucible, a moment of truth not just for her, but for everyone involved. What would they discover together, and how might that impact their work, transforming the way they viewed each other moving forward? For the first time in a long while, Maya felt not just hopeful, but driven with purpose. Yet standing on this edge of potential, a flicker of anxiety still lingered. What if she failed to guide them through this change? With a pulse-quickening anticipation, she closed her notebook, the tremor in her fingers a reminder of the challenge ahead. Tomorrow she would not just lead, but invite them all to lead alongside her and confront whatever may come. And as the clock ticked towards the end of the evening, Maya couldn't help but feel that the opportunity to forge a new beginning was fast approaching, yet equally terrifying. Would they truly capitalize on it, or would the moment slip away like so many before? But still, the lingering question hovered uneasily. Would her leap of faith ignite something transformative, or would it lead to an unsettling reckoning with herself and her team? Maya woke up the next morning with the weight of anticipation heavy on her chest. It was as if every heartbeat echoed the significance of the day ahead. She lay in bed, grappling with anxiety that threatened to become paralyzing. The sun filtered through her curtains, casting a warm glow that contrasted sharply with the storm of thoughts swirling in her mind. She had taken a step into vulnerability, and now the prospect of leading an open conversation with her colleagues felt both exhilarating and terrifying. What if they weren't ready for the shift? What if they preferred the comfort of silence over the danger of dialogue? Yet a flicker of resolve ignited as she recalled her own courage in reaching out to Jake. This was about fostering change, not just for herself, but for the entire team. In the shower, she rehearsed her introduction. "Thank you all for coming. I know it's not easy to open up, but I believe it's essential for our growth." Words she hoped would bridge the chasm of silence that often loomed over their interactions. Once dressed, Maya headed to her favorite cafe, seeking a final dose of caffeine to fuel her courage. The barista greeted her with a smile, unaware of the internal tumult boiling just beneath her exterior. As she sipped her coffee, she silently committed to nurturing each member of her team. Sam's shyness, Lisa's exhaustion, and Mark's untapped ideas. Each person carried a burden that deserved to be shared. Arriving at the diner later, the familiar aroma of breakfast wafted around her, offering a sense of comfort. She straightened her back, pushing away the creeping doubts. Today, she was not just a waitress, she was a leader. As she set the meeting space, she arranged the chairs in a circle, an intentional choice to promote equality in their discussion. "No more rows that separate us," she told herself. "Today, we engage as equals." One by one, her team trickled in. First Lisa, who looked tired but flashed a reassuring smile. Then Mark, who surprised her by bringing coffee for everyone without being asked. The small gestures ignited a flicker of warmth in Maya's heart. Perhaps they were willing to meet her halfway. "Thanks for being here," Maya said, her voice steady but thick with emotion. As Sam, the last to arrive, joined the circle, Maya could see the tension etched in their faces, their skepticism mixed with curiosity. I want to talk about how we can all connect better, she started, explaining her vision of a more open environment where each person felt heard. She shared her thoughts, articulating the struggle she felt between vulnerability and professionalism. The room shifted as Maya laid down her prompts, inviting them into the conversation. Moments of silence ensued, heavy as the leaden clouds shifting in the sky outside. But she held her ground. I want to know what you feel. What do you want our team to be? To her relief, Lisa spoke first, peeling away layers of her
exhaustion by revealing the stressors she faced on the job. Maya listened intently, encouraging others to share their stories. Mark followed suit, his quiet demeanor unraveling as he fed on Lisa's courage, offering solutions that had long stayed dormant in his mind. Maya felt her heart swell as conversation flowed. The more they opened up, the more it became clear that what they had feared most, a lack of understanding, was actually the hidden barrier between them. Each vulnerability shared was a thread knitting them closer together. But as the discussion deepened, a shocking realization hit Maya. Jake hadn't just questioned her email, he was questioning their collective abilities. For a brief moment, her gut twisted with irritation. They were fighting silently against not only their personal barriers, but also the silent assumptions held by someone in a position of authority. Jake is right about one thing, she thought, fighting the wave of frustration. This isn't just about pouring our hearts out, it's about action. This clarity surged within her, a moral dilemma igniting her resolve. How could she assert her authority without alienating the team? They had bonded, but leadership required balancing vulnerability with strength, a nuance she had to master. As they reached the end of their meeting, Maya felt an unfamiliar openness in the room, fragile yet powerful. She wanted to capitalize on this momentum, but new challenges lay ahead. This was just the beginning, yet she could already glimpse the path forward. As the team began to leave, excitement buzzed in the air. They were starting to embrace the change she envisioned. Yet another thought tugged at the back of her mind. How would they respond to Jake's skepticism when confronted with it? Hers was no longer just a mission of personal growth. It was now a resolve to lead a team towards a collective reawakening. Tomorrow they would face Jake together, but the question lingered. Would they stand united, or would they return to the safety of silence? The morning breeze fluttered through the cafe's open windows, ushering in a sense of renewal. Maya returned to her usual spot, the corner table that felt like her sanctuary. She brewed a thoughtful blend of courage and preparation, sipping her coffee as she recalled the conversations from yesterday. In its aftermath, momentum brewed like a storm waiting to unleash its power. She could almost feel the palpable change in her team, an energy sparking with potential. But that potential came with uncertainty. The lingering question haunted Maya. Would they embrace vulnerability when confronted by Jake again? Reflection tugged at her as she prepared for the day ahead. What if her strength faltered? Dressing deliberately, she chose a blazer that made her feel both professional and approachable. Each button she fastened felt symbolic, as if she was bottling her resolve. Today was not only about confronting Jake, but also about reinforcing her emerging leadership. She had to blend her authenticity with authority, a balancing act that required precision. Arriving at the diner, the shift started with the mundane. As she took orders and served steaming plates, she could sense the atmosphere brewing with unacknowledged feelings among her team. The kitchen held whispers of excitement laced with trepidation. Sam appeared withdrawn again. Lisa was fidgety, and Mark's usual enthusiasm felt muted. As the lunch rush subsided, Maya gathered her team, urging them into a huddle. "Let's take a moment before our meeting with Jake," she said, her voice cutting through the usual din. The weight of her gaze encouraged them to breathe through their tension, inviting openness. "You're all doing incredible work, and it's important we know our worth," she continued, inviting them to share their thoughts about yesterday's meeting. The reactions were mixed. Excitement fought against the apprehension. "I'm worried about what Jake thinks," Sam admitted, his eyes darting to the floor. "He doesn't hold back when he's skeptical." Maya nodded, aware of the truth behind his struggle. "I feel that too," she replied, feeling the shared vulnerability bridge their distance. "But it's time for us to own our contributions and assert our collective ideas." Encouraged by her words, Mark chimed in. "If we believe in what we shared, we can face his skepticism together." Determined to create a strong front, Maya employed an approach both strategic and personal. They practiced articulating their thoughts, role-playing possible objections that Jake might voice. Each rebuttal they rehearsed only strengthened their resolve, allowing the team to rediscover their voices. Suddenly, as they immersed in preparation, a realization struck Maya. She was not just orchestrating a meeting. They were forging a collective identity that transcended individual contributions. This newfound camaraderie emboldened her. She was no longer just fighting her battle. She was guiding her team into the arena. Finally, time beckoned them to the conference room. With quickened heartbeats, they entered as a unified front, the weight of collective vulnerability and strength swirling around them. As they settled, Jake sat at the head of the table, an air of authority surrounding him. "Let's hear what you've come up with," he said, raising an eyebrow, clearly expecting trepidation. But Maya felt a different energy ripple through her team, confidence tempered with tenacity. In that instant, as she prepared to speak, an unshakable thought settled within her. This was more than a confrontation. It was a moment to claim their space, to redefine their narrative against doubt, a hidden truth finally surfacing within them all. Maya took a deep breath and rose to speak, knowing this was just the beginning of their journey. But would they seize the moment or shrink back into silence? Would they reveal their vision for the future, or would Jake's skepticism eclipse their newfound empowerment? A singular thought raced through her mind. Today could change everything. Maya stood before her team, fortified with the collective energy buzzing among them. This was no longer just about her. This was their moment, their shared vision. As she prepared to face Jake, a sense of calm swelled within her. They were ready to embrace the uncertainty, to leverage the courage they had collectively nurtured. With each steady breath, she launched into the narrative they had crafted together. "Jake," she began, her voice resolute yet inviting, "we wanted to take this opportunity to discuss not just our individual roles, but what we can achieve as a cohesive unit. What may seem like simple interactions within this diner are actually the lifeblood of our community. We believe our diner can serve as a platform for connection and storytelling that could drive both loyalty and revenue." Jake leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, skepticism flickering in his eyes. Yet Maya noticed a change. Instead of dismissing her words, he listened. There was a pulse of vulnerability in the room, rippling with shared experiences from her team that painted a vivid picture of their collective worth. "Think of it this way," Maya continued, emboldened by the supportive faces surrounding her. "Every meal served here embodies a story, a connection. Our proposal includes introducing community dinners designed to celebrate the histories of our patrons. These gatherings could turn regular diners into storytellers, sharing their experiences to forge deeper connections over my grandmother's recipes. By doing so, we can demonstrate the intrinsic value of our diner beyond mere transactions." The confidence in her voice ignited a ripple of energy throughout the room. Sam spoke up. "And we'll document everything, story clips and testimonials post-dinner shared through our social media channels. It's not just about food, it's about authenticity, and we're ready to showcase that." Mark's face lit with excitement as he added, "Imagine the buzz generated on social media. It'll not only increase our foot traffic, but create a sense of urgency for people to experience these evenings firsthand." As the ideas flowed, Maya felt apprehension swirling around Jake's demeanor shift. Her team was responding. Together, they were articulating something beyond their fears, forging a narrative that demanded attention. "You speak of loyalty, of connection," Jake challenged, an eyebrow raised. "But how do you quantify that? What if it fails?"
The question hung in the air, yet it didn't stab like before. Infused with newfound confidence, Maya countered. You can't put a price on the story shared in this diner, on the memories created here. But we can track the metrics, the rise in patronage, social media engagement, repeat visits. We'll conduct surveys, establishing benchmarks for success that align with our community vision. Their dialogue transformed. Instead of an isolated response from Maya, it became a weaving of her team's voices, interspersed with enthusiasm and purpose. Jake's earlier skepticism appeared to weaken before their collective resolve. As the meeting progressed, Maya felt an exhilarating shift. With every exchange, their earnestness chipped away at the coldness she had initially sensed. By the end of the discussion, a spark ignited in Jake's eye. Curiosity mingled with respect. I can see your passion, he relented, slowly, leaning forward. Let's draw up a plan and outline those metrics. If you're willing to take the risk, let's
discuss this potential opportunity in depth. A wave of relief washed over Maya as she exchanged affirming glances with her team. They had done it, transformed skepticism into possibilities. It was not just victory, it was validation, not just of her leadership, but of their collective identity. As the meeting concluded, an undeniable shift punctuated their reality. They had moved beyond passive roles. Together they had forged a bold direction. In that moment, Maya recognized her evolution as a leader. No longer retreating from doubt, she had embraced it, allowing her fears to compel her and her team towards something greater. Outside the boardroom, Maya felt liberated. The once weighty burden she had carried turned lighter, reframing her perception of not only herself, but her team as empowered co-architects of a shared vision. They were a family, united by stories and resilience. Each member had a vital role in shaping their journey forward. In the weeks that followed, the diner thrived as community dinners came to life. Notes of laughter echoed through the walls, and each dish served became a tapestry of stories, a mosaic woven from shared experiences. Maya reveled in her new role. She had not just achieved her professional aspirations, but enriched her personal life and relationships. The diner transformed into something more, a cornerstone of community, love, and belonging, as her grandmother had envisioned. Each moment of discomfort, every ounce of vulnerability she shared, wove deeper connections that illuminated the path ahead. Maya had conquered her fears and was now recognized as a capable leader, not just a waitress, but a force for change. She had proven that vulnerability could cultivate strength, guiding her team through uncertainty to newfound clarity and confidence. From that day on, Maya made a promise to herself: to consistently nurture that space of belonging, where stories would continue to be shared, where connection would thrive. She had achieved a profound sense of personal fulfillment, establishing a legacy not only for herself and her children, but for everyone who crossed the threshold of her diner. Now she stood tall, embodying the spirit of resilience her grandmother had instilled in her. No longer just a simple waitress, but a leader with ambition and purpose. Now's your chance to embody that same spirit of evolution. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. This is the moment to show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about this powerful conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this impactful journey. Don't wait even one more second to share. You need to support authentic stories of personal growth.